Today we're going to be talking about A Quiet Place and Isle of Dogs. So stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film
Yes.
and television.
Yes.
I'm whispering mad.
Yes, you should.
Yes, because today
we're
talking about a film called A Quiet Place.
Yes.
I am here with Matt Nutmeg Hay.
Nutmeg Hay.
It's Matt Nutmeg Hay. It's
I don't understand it. Is it from Isle of Dogs?
Yes, it's from the
Okay.
film I'm going to be talking about.
Yeah,
Because I didn't see your film because it's scary as heck.
Yeah.
I don't watch those kinds of movies.
So, everybody, I am here with Joel. You gotta talk at a low volume like this because I don't want you to get eaten or killed or slashed or something like that. Cunningham.
That's good.
Okay.
You scared me at the end a little bit. It was very abrupt. But is that what we'll talk about it, obviously.
Yeah.
Is that the thing they do? Do they eat them? Or you want to talk about
Talk about it later.
Talk about it later. All right, cool. Well, welcome to the podcast, everybody. This is where Matt and I talk about the films that we got a chance to see over the last little bit. And Matt kind of has a little bit of more of a fan perspective, fan style, kind of fun and hype and big and emotions and running wild. And I tend to be more of the analytic perspective kind of guy, break down story structure, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We put those together to give you what we believe is a real thought and perspective with film and television. Matt, if I've done my duty in explaining the show correctly, why don't you give our listeners some ways to get connected?
Absolutely. I would love to do that. You all can get connected.
My Nutella coffee here.
Your drink. Okay, I gotcha. So you all can get connected with us all at our website, which is realreviewmedia.com, and then you can connect with us through social media, all through that, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Real Review Media. Again, that's real, R-E-E-L. I keep it real, but, fishing reel. So that, and then also you can email us, realreviewmedia@gmail.com. You can find us on our YouTube page, youtube.com/TheRealReview. I'm going to try and get a trailer reaction and review to, I already filmed it, just got to edit it, upload it. For The Meg.
For The Meg.
Yes, the new Jason Statham versus a giant shark movie, which seems ludicrous, and it probably is ludicrous.
I believe it's pronounced Jason Statham.
Jason Statham.
Jason Statham.
So I
thought it was like contractually obligated with every film that he was in that he had to sleep with a married woman. I know that sounds weird, but like almost 90% of the films I've seen him in, he ends up sleeping with like a married woman.
Well, we don't know that for sure with this movie. I mean, it could possibly happen still.
Well, if the Meg is married, all I'm going to say is then they're in trouble. So
well, then there's some other weird stuff happening. Sidetrack Joel.
I've had too much coffee today. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about our two films, A Quiet Place and Isle of Dogs. Why don't you start us off, Matt?
Guys, A Quiet Place.
And get us right
A Quiet Place. Synopsis on IMDb is basically a family is forced to live in silence while hiding from creatures that hunt by sound, directed by John Krasinski, stars Emily Blunt, Millicent Simmons, Noah Jupe, and like two other people, and like that's the whole movie. To give you more of a breakdown, basically they live in kind of a dystopian, post-apocalyptic world. You don't know a lot about what's happening, but basically there's these creatures that hunt by sound. And if you make a sound, you're probably going to die.
Yeah.
They set it up differently though, to where that rule applies for the most part. But there are instances where you if something happens by accident, you may be okay. They set up that rule, that verisimilitude that we talked about so long ago.
Yeah, we don't do those anymore.
Right.
Our movie talk stuff. We should.
We
at some
should.
point bring it back. Yeah.
And Critic Corner, right?
Yes.
Anyways, so they set that up pretty well, and I like that about this. Let me just tell you right now, my expectations for this movie were through the roof. And let me just say, before even seeing the movie, if you've been listening to the show for a while now, you'll know that I have some like guilty pleasures, like some like genres and stuff like that. If a movie hits on those, it doesn't matter if the movie's good or not. I will like it automatically because of that. Yeah. One of them, post-apocalyptic, check. Two of them, crazy creatures, check. Third, if it's got, actors and actresses that I really like in it, then I go in with just kind of a positive outlook, just just to begin with. This movie exceeded every single expectation. In addition to providing those things that kind of check those boxes for me, it's really, really good.
Nice.
Really, really good. Dare I say my favorite movie of the year so far.
Nice.
I love this movie. I love this movie. And I haven't said that about, maybe Black Panther is up there. But other than that, I really liked Ready Player One. This movie I loved. But oh my gosh, I don't have, my negative talk on this movie won't be that long, but for as positives are concerned, it looks great. It's acted great. The premise is amazing.
You're getting so animated here.
I know. I'm so excited about this movie. It hits on every cylinder. I went and saw this movie with my dad, my sister, and her husband, and basically like that's my crew. Like when we see scary movies, you know, that kind of a thing. And this movie, and I think you would appreciate this movie too. It's not like a straight horror movie. It's more thriller-ish with some horror elements, kind of like a 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Gotcha.
And the other thing that this movie has going for is it's not just scary. It has so much heart. I was teary-eyed like several parts in the movie. And I think that there's going to be a dynamic of people that like this movie for what it is, and the other people that like it because of the connection that they made as a parent. For me, I have 3 children. These parents have 3 children, and I'm just like, I'm making this connection. I'm inserting myself in the story, and it's just like, how are these people doing this? You can't make a noise, and it's just crazy to me. And it's brilliant. I love this movie. I love it so much. It's terrifying. They do a lot of character development at the beginning. John Krasinski has gone on record. And John Krasinski?
I know. Nobody expected that. I mean, he is an intelligent guy, though. And I think he's got a really good personality to direct.
Yeah.
I think you can have, there's 2 types of personalities that do really well with directing from what I've seen. I'm going on a total sidebar here.
This is his 3rd movie, but this is like his coming out party, I feel like.
I think so. Yeah, this is the one he's going to be known for.
Right,
and people are going to be interested in seeing his follow-up after this.
Right.
But he's got, you have your type of director that's kind of like your Stanley Kubrick, which is like you're completely obsessed, like has a vision.
Yeah.
And everybody has to be on board with like making this vision happen. And that can be very successful. Can also be very draining and difficult. And then you have your directors that are more like a John Krasinski, who's probably got a good vision for it, but also intelligent enough to know how to bring in smart people and delegate different tasks well and make it a good environment. And he comes across as that kind of director.
Right.
So in that sense, I actually, plus all the positive buzz I've been hearing about it, I like to give directors, like new directors, an opportunity to show me kind of what they got.
Yeah.
Show me what you got. Yeah. And so I haven't seen it yet, but I kind of want to.
So what I can say is it's probably most closely related to Signs.
Okay.
I would say that.
Yeah.
With elements of Jurassic Park and Cloverfield.
How jumpy is it?
There's a few.
Okay.
There's a few in there.
That's the only thing I really don't. We talked about it.
Yeah. And some of them are really, I would say some of the jump scare stuff are earned jump scares. They're not just for the sake of having a jump scare.
Yeah.
I would say most of them are earned.
When you call it a quiet place, you're going to have to assume that they're going to make a lot of like bump kind of moments.
So that's
happen.
this part about this that's really, really unique about this movie. And obviously everybody that's reviewing this movie talks about it. So you can't not talk about it. It's the sound in this movie. There's very little sound.
Yeah.
There's very little dialogue. There's maybe
there's
like 2 scenes where people are talking.
Is there even music?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would hope for that.
They do the traditional like where something menacing is happening. It goes into this. It almost reminded me of the Sicario, like whoa, like kind of thing. That music.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that, which is funny because Emily Blunt's in it, which is cool. John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, they're married in real life. They're doing this together.
Right.
She's amazing. She's the scene stealer, by the way. But everybody is amazing. So it's not like everybody's subpar. Everybody's extraordinary. Even the kids are amazing.
That was the one thing I was like,
the kids are awesome in this. Like you believe them. Like when they're terrified, you believe that they are terrified.
I guess it's not super hard to put a kid in a scary movie. Sometimes,
yeah. So the soundscape,
be scared.
Soundscape is interesting because it's really worth seeing in a movie theater. However, there's going to be people in the movie theater because there's not a lot of sound too.
Yeah.
You hear everything in the movie theater. You hear the people like Like, come on, people, stop eating your popcorn so
Yeah,
loud. And
yeah.
like, it makes you aware. You're like, ooh, I'm not going to move. I can't move because it's going to be really loud.
Yeah.
And then like I went with, like I said, my dad, my sister, and her husband. There was this guy I think he was intoxicated. He was on his phone. He got escorted from the theater in the first like 1 minute of the movie.
Oh man.
He just had a conversation like super loud. Although I was like, are you kidding me right now? Get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And the sound just adds a level of intensity. The movie does a really good job in the first 25 minutes to set up the characters really well. People argue that's slow. I argue opposite. I think you need that to be it's a character-driven story with horror elements, which I think is why it's so good.
Okay.
And in the very first sequence of the movie, they set up in a crazy fashion, like the rules of this movie, and you're like, dang, they went there.
Yeah.
And then basically it just kind of launches from there. A lot of really emotional arcs that some of the characters have to go through. I have no negatives for this movie.
Wow.
Except for, I've done a lot of research in the last couple days because I can't give a full how I feel about a movie in the first the same day I viewed it. I always have to sleep on it, and I like it the more that I think about it. And people are coming up with these plot holes that are. I don't understand why they're thinking that it's a plot hole. There's not as many plot holes as people seem to say that there are.
Yeah.
There was one that I've not even heard people bring up yet, and I don't want to talk about it here. It's spoilery, but there's one thing that happens that I was like, well, that doesn't necessarily make sense if this has kind of been the way of. Anyways, nobody's talked about it yet, but it's okay. Now that I think about it, I think I've just figured it out. Never mind. Maybe it's not even plot hole, but there's some plot holes in there
Answering your own
that
questions.
don't. Yeah, exactly. They don't necessarily make sense. They're saying that it don't make sense, but it makes sense to me. If you just look at it as a grand scale, you got to realize that this movie is focusing on this family's story. Okay. And they withhold information about the origin of these creatures. So you don't know if they're aliens. You don't know if, it's just keeping it real, focused on the family, their journey, their life, their living together, how they're surviving, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it comes down to basically parents and how much they love their kids. And that's where it resonated with me the most. It's very emotional. Especially a lot of the beats that happen towards the end. You're like, oh my gosh. And it was just a really incredible movie. I'm going to go really high on my score. Probably the highest score I've given a movie.
Wow.
And I'm going to go 97.
Man,
I love this movie. And
this is like going to go down as one of your top 10 almost of all time at this point.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But
Well, we've only been doing the podcast for 2 years, year and a half.
So I really love this movie, and I want everybody to see it because it's more than just a horror movie, I feel like. And
I would say within an age range of probably over like 13 or 14.
oh yeah, absolutely. It's
Okay.
PG-13, but it's a hard PG-13.
Okay.
It's horrific. I was tense. I was white knuckling the whole last hour of the movie. I was just like, well, it's only 90 minutes long too, and I think they did a great job at keeping it short, brief, succinct, and doing all the things that need to happen. And it was just really great. I love this movie. I can't rave about it enough. I think for me, I think it's going to be different for you just because it hit different emotional beats for me with me having kids and how I think about my love for my kids and interjecting it kind of how they were in their kids.
That makes sense.
And
I'm going to connect more with the monsters is what you're saying.
Sure, exactly.
I don't have kids.
The creature design was incredible, by the way.
Okay.
The budget, $17 million, came out, made $50 million opening weekend. ILM, they did it. So they're like the premier, CG people in the world. So them and Weta, right?
Yeah, Weta Workshop.
Yeah. Like those two are like the two like go-to CG companies, and you do it for a reason because they do amazing work.
Absolutely.
And so ILM did it, and it was just incredible. I loved it. The family I went with, I'm sure they wanted to know what I felt like, but I'm always really quiet after the movies. I always got to think about it and process it. And I was like, there's things I mentioned that I like to them right up front. But at the fully forming it, it's such a good movie. I love this movie. Favorite of the year, definitely so far.
That's awesome, Matt.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Yes.
I will try to check it out I will try.
Please give it a go. If you go to the theater, see it on in a morning.
We got Rampage coming out this weekend.
I'm excited for Rampage. I think it's gonna be dumb, but I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, but I mean the pool between the two. Obviously, Rampage takes a higher seat in priority.
I'm gonna give Rampage 100%.
For sure. I'm sure it'll be that. And a bag of chips.
Yep.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that review, folks. Anyway, so thank you for that review.
Oh,
Appreciate
yeah.
it. Very awesome. I'm going to be moving on and talking about a film that I got to see.
And I did not see.
Right, as an alternative.
Yes,
and
the dogs were not quiet.
Yeah, there you go. Very good.
Yep.
So this film was a limited release.
Yep.
It's called I Love Dogs. It's a film by director Wes Anderson.
Ever hear of him?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
He's pretty well known. He's taken some interesting steps over the last few years. And just a brief synopsis for this film. Set in Japan, I Love Dogs follows a boy's odyssey in search of his lost dog, which is a gross oversimplification of this type of film. The best thing that I can say, and I can't kind of enter into this discussion of this film without briefly just talking about Wes Anderson.
Yeah, Wanderson, as his friends call him.
Yep. I call him that all the time.
Yeah,
How'd
me
you
too.
know?
We text.
Yeah, I'm texting back.
Yep.
Wanderson, how's it going? Yep. He is the best thing that I could describe sort of his style of directing is avant-garde. Mm-hmm. He has this very new, almost experimental style that's mixed with other sort of emphases in different genres and styles. He borders on the comedic at times as well in a really weird way because he can simultaneously make something funny and sad in such an interesting way. Mm-hmm. And one of the best examples I can say is like Rushmore, which is a story about, a bunch of sort of sad people.
Sure. And
kind of quirky personality people that are kind of this love triangle situation going on. And it's like, that's one of my favorite movies by him, I'd say, almost, or Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah.
And he has this, he uses very effectively uses angles and framing, light and composition with different colors and styles to emote different and elicit different feelings. He's one of the most in-controlled, stylistic. He kind of falls more into, again, talking about the two types of directors, more like the Stanley Kubrick type style. And so he started off very early on with a short film called Bottle Rocket.
Yeah.
Which got
Luke and Owen.
Yep, which got enough popularity from it, kind of launched those guys' careers because it ended up becoming a full-length film and did well enough that he ended up kind of moving into, so Royal Tenenbaums was the follow-up, Rushmore was the follow-up, and then Royal Tenenbaums, and then from there, things got a little weird. Some people, there's some stuff that I kind of like that I didn't necessarily connect with as well.
Like what?
Life Aquatic.
Oh, okay.
The Fantastic Mr. Fox and stuff. Well, a lot of people. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say because this movie to me falls more in line with Fantastic Mr. Fox, just being another stop animation. So I'm curious to see because I thought that was okay.
It does, and so this isn't his first time moving into the territory of stop motion animation. He definitely first time doing that was Fantastic Mr. Fox. And the interesting thing is he's kind of at times still kind of incorporated stop motion into his normal live action type movies, like especially with Grand Budapest Hotel, which was the one just prior to this that I actually really enjoyed. Yeah. I wasn't a huge fan of Moonrise Kingdom.
It got some Oscar buzz too.
Yeah. It was just a quirky kind of fun film about, it was almost like a buddy drama type thing, but set in a very strange world almost. And he delves into the strange and the absurd so nicely and kind of fun. And it's like he does these absurd things, but he frames it and he shoots it and he dialogues it and puts music to it in such a way that it makes it feel fun and interesting and not weird in over in excess, I'd say. So that's all just to kind of explain Wes Anderson. If you're not a fan of his, I would definitely suggest, or if you don't know him very well, for listeners out there, I would definitely suggest checking out some of his other films and stuff. So the reason I'm saying he's kind of moved into a bit of a strange direction is he's been releasing the last couple films. I'm not exactly sure, I haven't had a chance to look into this why, but as limited release type films. And he's a big enough director, though, that he definitely warrants and could go into sort of a major release with his films. And so that's why I want to look into it. I want to find out if maybe he's just doing a different distribution or a different studio thing or
what. Money thing.
It might be a money thing. I don't know exactly what's going on, but I really enjoyed I Love Dogs.
Awesome.
So the film kind of chronicles, as it very briefly discussed, this young boy whose dog gets taken away from him. It's stop motion animation, and he goes onto this island. It's set in Japan, but it's kind of like another world version of Japan. it's like a heightened version of it. Everything is very like over the top with like the way that they act and personalities on the island. So he gets this young boy who's kind of separated from his parents after they pass away, gets adopted by his uncle, who's kind of the mayor. He's the governor guy that runs the island of Japan. And there's he sets up at the very beginning, it's this really funny story. And he doesn't give you it. There's times and moments where like people will be speaking in Japanese. He doesn't even give you subtitles. You just kind of have to learn from what's happening based upon the context of what they're saying.
To deduce
not what they're saying, but like the way their face is moving or the actions that they're taking. And it kind of works in a funny way because it makes it more visually, just you're watching what's happening versus listening to things that they're saying. And then other times, all the other times that somebody's speaking in Japanese and you need to understand it, they'll provide like a literal translator that's in the film that's translating it for like the radio or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's weird because it's almost like they're trying to base it on reality, but then you'll have these other moments that are just like don't make any sense at all and are completely just over the top ridiculous. Like there's robot dogs, and there's like these guns that it's just really crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It was really, so it tells the story of this young boy whose dog gets taken away because there's these two clans that have it tells like this gives like the background, with like Japanese music. And it's like, back in the early days, there was two clans, the cat clan and the dog clan, and they fought. And basically the cat clan has lived with this desire to kick out the dogs for good.
Okay.
And so the whole setup for it is this idea that there's like these two warring factions, or at least one major warring faction of cats that wants to get rid of all the dogs.
Yeah, it's
on
like
the
a
island.
sequel to that cheesy movie, Cats and Dogs.
Exactly.
But better, probably.
Yeah, well, much better.
Yeah.
Much better. And a lot funnier and interesting. And so everything has a very Japanese kind of style to it. And the voice acting is amazing. I mean, he got some of the biggest names out there. You got Bryan Cranston, Bill Murray, Jeff Goldblum,
Ed Norton.
Scarlett Johansson, who's Nutmeg, who's kind of plays like the main love interest.
Oh, that's what you called me earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
She's funny because she's a show dog.
Okay.
And so what ends up happening, and I'm going to kind of give you the brief rundown. This like happens in the first couple minutes and just kind of sets up the whole story. But the cats they claim that there's this disease that exists, which is causing the dogs to more or less impact and are a threat to the humans in Japan.
Okay.
And so they send all this royal decree or this mayoral decree that they're going to send all the dogs to a separate island, which is really funny because like the mayor comes up there and he gives this long like speech of like, these dogs are going to kill us and da-da-da-da. And then he's like, and now we provide the mandatory time for the other side to say what it is that they want to say. And the guy comes up there and he's like, we can cure this. It's not a problem. We shouldn't get rid of the dogs. And he's like, boom, send them to the island. like listen to him. It's really fun. So, and it's a lot of like unexpected type moments with the movie. So all the dogs end up going to the island. They take this young boy's dog and he wants to go to the island to basically rescue and find him. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the chronicling, it's like a journey. It's chronicling his story of going across the island to try and track down his dog and the characters he runs into across, mixed with what's happening on the main island with the people trying to uncover this plot of the cats trying to get rid of the dogs. And so it's like an espionage film mixed with like a journey film with the craziest, weirdest humor at times.
Funny. One thing I love about these animated, and I thought Fantastic Mr. Fox was all right, but one thing I like about these stop motion ones is, first of all, I appreciate in a huge way the level of time commitment that it takes to animate one of these films. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous. I would never be able to do it ever just because I don't want to. Yeah. I don't have the patience to like animate an explosion and out of, cotton balls. I don't have that kind of patience. But I think that one thing that's hilarious is all the talent that get cast in these films, at least in Fantastic Fox and from what I got from the trailer from this film, is all the actors just use their regular voices. They don't try to be a character. And that's what makes it funny to me. Yeah. And they're just like, okay, like they talk like humans. They're not like trying to pretend to be a dog.
Yeah, and that's where the movie kind of like you have to, it's so weird because you have to both disbelieve it and believe it at the same time, because the dogs are fully capable in the movie of understanding human like language. Yeah. But they speak English. Right. But they all live in Japan. And so they're like, the boy will be talking and they're like, does anybody understand what he's saying? And they're like speaking in English to each other, and they're like, no, I don't really speak his. Yeah. It's too bad he doesn't speak English. You know, it's like,
yeah, I think it was Jason Schwartzman in Fantastic Mr. Fox, where he's like, you know why I can fit in there? Because I'm little. Like he just like he just says stuff like I don't know.
And you think it would be deeper or something? Yeah, it's just the way he sets things up are so interesting. So like Bryan Cranston plays this character named Chief, who's this curmudgeon-y dog that lived on the streets and never had an owner, and he mistrusts people, and he ends up in this kind of relationship with the young boy, and a big part of it is kind of how that relationship develops throughout the course of the film. And there's this really funny scene where they kind of get separated from the main pack. And the pack is hilarious because they're all like dogs, but they're like, okay, nobody's the leader of this pack. We all take votes. But like one dog is always the one that like gets them to do everything. Yeah. So the one dog is always like, but I'm not in charge. So who supports what I have to say? And all the dogs are like, yes, yes, yes. And then Bryan Cranston's like, no. And then they all, so there's like one part where they have to fight this like robot dog or this human or cat or like save the boy. Yeah. And they're like, who votes for Brian or who votes for Chief to go fight the robot dog? And they're like, I. Yeah. And he's like, no. Just like, so there's just quirky, funny moments and like a good example of a scene where it can be like such a pendulum of emotion is like, so Chief is with the boy and they're, Atari is the boy's name. And they're going and they kind of get separated from the pack, and for random reasons, there's like this theme park that's like on the island. Okay. And they come across this slide and the sign says like, you must be this tall to ride, basically. It indicates it's got the thing, it's all in Japanese. And so the boy's like looking at it and Chief is like, nope, don't do it. And he like goes towards the steps and he's like, don't, I will leave. And he takes another step. He's like, I will leave. And it's funny because he's a dog and he's talking to the young boy, but it's like they're understanding each other. Yeah. And so then Atari goes up the slide and Chief's just like, whatever. And he just leaves. And then so like Atari like slides down the slide and then he falls off and he hits himself and like busts his ear. And then as soon as he gets done with that, look, he sits up and he starts doing this like whistle, which is the whistle that he did for his dog that he's looking for to like connect them. And it just immediately turns sad. Because it's like he's suddenly heartbroken that Chief's gone and he's missing his dog friend. Oh, yeah. And it's like, it's such a pendulum of emotion, and they do it so well and effectively that's like, even with these stop motion animation characters, they elicit such strong emotional reactions. Mm-hmm. And it's just so random. You know, there's a part where they go to a bar and the girl's too young to drink, so she's drinking like chocolate milk. And she's like, hit me another time. She like takes a drink of it. She's like yelling at the girl. She's like, you are a disgrace. And then she chugs it and like throws it against the wall and stuff. And it's just like the way that the film kind of rolls itself out is very interesting. It's very unexpected, and it's not gonna like, as far as the overall progress of the plot, it's not gonna throw a lot of like surprises at you, but you'll enjoy it, I think. Okay,
I'll check it out. I want to check it out.
Yeah, so. I think the main thing that keeps this film from being more accessible, as well as like most other Wes Anderson films, is he's not apologetic about his style. Yeah. He kind of just goes with it. Yeah. And he's done it long enough now that he kind of knows his avant-garde style that he's going to go for. And it's not really kid-friendly. Yeah. You know, it's not the kind of film you would bring.
Fantastic Mr. Fox wasn't really like that either.
Yeah. So this is the kind of film I would say you'd need to be at least really 14 or 15 to kind of start getting it.
Sure. Is it PG-13?
I don't remember. PG? I didn't check on that one. It might be PG-13. It's PG-13.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because it's got some really dark moments, some death and, you know, violence and people being killed off and things like that. And it's just kind of like, wow. So I think that in and of itself is probably enough to keep it from really breaking more into the mainstream. PG-13 is like a good age demo, but the film looks like a kid's film.
It does, yeah.
But it plays like an adult film.
Right.
So it's just really hard to kind of, I don't know, check out. But I think it's one of my better ones of the year for sure.
Awesome.
Really enjoyed it. Probably going to be higher up there on my scale of like positive films that I could suggest to somebody if you like the kind of the strange, funny, weird overall type stories. So I'm going to give this one a 91.
All right. Yeah. I like it.
I really enjoyed it. So.
Got some A's, some good movies today.
Yeah, we did a good.
I like it.
Good week for both of us, coming out of a long spell of not so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I liked Ready Player One more than you did. So.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, and then it wasn't awful, I guess, but yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else, Matt? Do you
No,
wanna go?
that's it.
All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and wrap things up on the podcast. Some ways to get connected, just as a reminder here at the end. RealReviewMedia.com is our website. We also have our Facebook, which is Facebook.com/RealReviewMedia. We're always posting and linking and doing things on there, trying to stay up on top of all the incredible news that's coming out. We also have both a Twitter and Instagram, which are both at Real Review Media. And then additionally, our our email, which we'd love to hear your thoughts and perspectives. I'd like to hear people's thoughts on this film, Isle of Dogs, because it's such a strange film. I'd love to get some input, some additional thoughts on it. Email us, realreviewmedia@gmail.com.
Yes, do it.
Anything else, Mal?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, it's been real.
It's been real.